Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another MPJ rock album reviews. It's me, your host Nigel Matthews, and with my amazing crew. Hello, everybody. Welcome back. So, we are back. We are now back with another show. We are reviewing brand new albums that were released in February, or maybe a bit of January, and it's a battle of the bands. And today's acts, we have Delain and their album, or her album, Dark Waters, versus the legends that are Pierce the Veil, and their album, The Jaws of Life. Right, so this is how it's going to work. We're going to introduce both bands. We're going to fly through and tell us what we're going to think, and then we're going to rate them. Who would we buy? Which band would we prefer to buy? And eventually, when we give our votes, will they reach the hallowed grounds of the MPJ Hall of Fame? So let's start with Delain and Dark Waters. Who are Delain? Well, Delain are, and I think this might be the first time I've said this, a Dutch symphonic metal band formed in 2002 by former Within Temptation keyboardist Mjatan Westerholt, intending for the band to be solely a project, a solo project. I think it should have said. Singer Charlotte Vessels was invited to join in 2005. The name of the band comes from The Kingdom of Delain, a Stephen King novel. Right, there we go, you see. The Eyes of the Dragon. In February 2021, the members decided to part ways. In June 2021, Westerholt announced that there was a new lineup involving former and new members. Right, well, so let's find out. Was it a Stephen King horror show? Was it a horror show of an album? Or was it something? I hope you like that. So I thought that was quite good. Anyway, so talking. Who can we start that is the most horrific here? Okay, let's start then with Dave. So, well, Dave, I mean, you
I've got some noise in the background. You might want to start with someone else first.
Oh, well, Dave. No, we'll start with you, Dave. We'll have the noise. It's fine because this is a heavy metal rock show. I mean, what's a heavy metal rock show without a bit of noise? Are they doing?
Yeah, well, if you can do with the dog barking, it's fine.
Oh, sorry, they're not doing some DIY then.
No, I've got.
Are there health and safety people around, Dave, by any chance, checking things out for you? But anyway.
No.
Come on then,
right,
Delain,
okay.
Dark Waters, talk to me.
I mean, she's got an absolutely great voice. Not really my particular style, but I've got to admit, I was getting into this quite a bit. Some great songs, some great riffs in there, but it just seemed to drag. And then it seemed to drag, and then it seemed to drag some more. And I ended up looking, I'm thinking, how long is this album? An hour and a half, 21 tracks. And I was like, you're taking the piss now. The problem for me with this album is just too long. If they had stripped this down a bit, maybe just under an hour, 45 minutes, something like that, I probably would have give it a much better mark. But for me, it's just too long. There's just too much of it. It just goes on for too long, and it's hard to keep your interest that long when there's not too many particular changes in style. It is very much similar throughout. There's not. While there are, ups and downs, there's not really, a major change in style anywhere to sort of pique your interest. And yeah, it's just too long for me.
Trish, now, do you like a long album, Trish? No.
Not too long, no. Otherwise it just loses you. I've listened to Delain before, so knew what to expect. The opening track, Hideaway Paris, with the silky vocals from the lead singer, and then the drums hit along with their poppy symphonic chorus, which is mirrored on Moth to a Flame, which also sees the guitars at their heaviest. Then with the Quest and the Curse, you have the harsh male vocals on lead, which was a nice touch. The penultimate track, Invictus, however, with riffs and keyboards, it is very indulgent and climatic at well over 10 minutes long. This album is a good listen, but compared to the likes of Visions of Atlantis album Pirates, for example, it was just missing that certain magic.
Talking of magic, Dom, is this your first foray into symphonic metal? Trust me, it was not going to be your last.
Yeah. I was frightened you were going to say that to me. Actually, in my world, there are two words that should never be put together: symphonic and metal. But this was terrible. This was awful. It was horrendous. Oh man. For me, like rock music, metal music, there's got to be this hint of danger, dirtiness. There's got to be some messiness around the edges. This is just terrible. I mean, they're named after a Stephen King fantasy novel, the worst type of Stephen King novels. They are a project from of a keyboardist. It's a project from a keyboardist trying to produce metal, and they couldn't even keep their lead singer. So basically, they had to hire somebody in to sing. She sings great, but it's manufactured Euro crap. Sorry. I've set my mark now. You're going to beat me down. Well, I couldn't tell this.
No, we'll educate you into the delights and vision of Atlantis.
It was painful.
Oh, Paul! Come on! I mean,
roll over, Chris. That's all I can say.
Roll over, Chris. I know, right?
Roll over, Chris. Chris who? Right, so I'm just going to reiterate what you've already said. Is 2 years ago, Delain disbanded with only the keyboard player and founder member Martin Vesterholt to reform the band to produce their new album Dark Waters. Romanian-born singer Dana Lay steps in as lead singer for the popular Charlotte Vessels and does a sterling job. The band have not done a slap-up job riding on their past-up work. They've almost reinvented themselves. Dark Waters is an infusion of symphonic, power metal, rock, not as bombastic as other bands that we've listened to over the last number of months, which makes them stand out above a number of bands, but not quite up there with the best of them. Having said that, if I was introducing someone who was interested in this genre, I wouldn't hesitate to recommend this album, which isn't very long. It's only got 10 or 11 tracks. The rest of the tracks are just instrumentals of all the other songs. So I think they got carried away there. But yeah.
Oh, go on, sorry.
They're on the record though, so I mean, it's.
Yeah, why put all of your
symphonic bands just tend to do that. Yeah, just tend to do it.
No, Dom, I absolutely agree. I think it's like why? Why do you do it? Why? I mean, 10 tracks is great. What do I think of this band? To start with, Dave, I did agree with you because it did kind of go a bit repetitive, and I thought to start with, great voice, some nice riffs in this, some interesting music, and then it went on and it droned on. It was the same thing, and then I thought, I don't want to listen to that again. And then, as I tend to do, I'm trying to have another quick listen, and before I know it, I was going, she's actually better than I remembered it to be. And then when I realised that they were instrumentals, which I didn't then listen to a second time round, it was a bit of a grower. It was a bit of a grower. Don't get me wrong. In terms of the mighty gods of symphonic metal, they don't come even close. But it was a solid effort. There was some nice riffs in there. Her voice is, on second and third time listen, it just gets better. She is glorious voice. I don't particularly like the gruff kind of screamo contrasting voice to it, though I appreciated it. I can understand what they were trying to do, but that really wasn't my cup of tea, really. And at least there was some sort of variety in there as well. But the problem with the album is that, and I always say about symphonic metal, and you know what, Dom, we will educate you in the heights of power metal and symphonic metal, because the problem with it is, and we do harp on in this show about it, is that you can't just tell a story with the lyrics and the voice. It has to be the Holy Trinity. It has to be the music, has to be the vocals, and it has to be the lyricism. And they all have to combine. And it's a really hard thing to do. And I thought this was a valiant effort, but didn't kind of get to that to that kind of level, if you see what I mean. And Trish mentions about one of our top albums, or our album of the year bizarrely, our album of the year last year was a symphonic band, which was Vision of Atlantis, and it won our album of the year.
Daylight Robbery.
Nigel, you're hurting me and Dave's feelings here now. So,
irrelevant. You voted for your
it
top
should have
10.
been Ballbeat. It should have been
You
Ballbeat.
still give it the top 3, Paul, and the records show. The records show that overall it was our album of the year. So anyway, let's find out. Right, well, who are Delain up to? Can they battle away against Pierce the Veil? Who are Pierce the Veil and their album, The Jaws of Life? Well, Pierce the Veil are an American rock band from San Diego, California. Formed in 2006, the band was founded by brothers Vic and Mike Fuentes, I think that's how you pronounce it, after the disbandment of the group Before Today, formerly Early Times, which was formed out of the San Diego punk rock scene. Other members of the band include Jamie Presidio, bass, and Tony Perry, lead guitar. Pierce the Veil has released 5 studio albums and has toured worldwide since the release of their debut album, A Flair for the Dramatic, in 2007. Trish, we're going to start with you. Can you pierce the veil of the Jaws of Life and enlighten us into how good or bad this album was?
Okay, so I'd never actually heard of them before, and with the album named Jaws of Life, in my mind I was expecting very screamo. Oh, How Wrong I Was, with the opening track, immediately proves this album is switching things up with a bit of synth, siren sounds, fast drums and clear vocals, catchy upbeat choruses. Past Nirvana, one of the album's heavier tracks, intense guitars. And yeah, I was right to think a bit of screamo before listening to this album, as on this track the vocals ranging from deep and dramatic in the verses to hard-hitting screams in the chorus. The album changes gears throughout, slowing things down, then ramping things up. It has a bit of everything. Now, as we all know, I'm not a screamo, anger-sounding fan at all. But this album has an angsty sound and alternative rock with a fresh take to please old fans and on board some new ones, including me.
Ooh, finally, some positivity radiant from this crew this month. Now, would you say, Trish, then that this album has a bit of edge to it and a little bit of, bite to it? Right up Dom Street, then. Surely. Talk to us, Dom. Pierce the veil.
Yeah, definitely. Well, it didn't have to go far to beat Delain, to be honest with you. But yeah, I liked it. It was all right. They're a reasonable band. I've heard some of their stuff before. Little bit melodic, but they do have definitely some edge to them. They kind of reminded me a little bit of kind of My Chemical Romance, Panic at the Disco. Maybe it's got a kind of feel of that kind of thing. They have one of the things that I think gives them a little bit of an edge is that, and you can hear it a bit in this album, is that they have a kind of Latin American feel to their music. In fact, they are sometimes called Mexicore music because they have a Mexican.
That's a new
roots.
one, Mexicore.
Yeah, Mexicore. So they have so the band all have sort of Hispanic roots, and they put a bit of Latin rhythm into their metal or hard rock, really, isn't it? Sort of California rock style music. And I think that comes through. And so, yeah, I thought it was a pretty decent effort. It was definitely listenable. And, yeah, good driving music, I thought. I was listening to it on my way to work. And I thought, yeah, this gets me from A to B and feeling a bit pumped.
I'm just in a bit of the shock of the Panic at the Disco analogy, quite frankly, because, quite frankly, what planet are you on to possibly analogy pierce the veil with Panic at the Disco? I'm just in shock at that one. But hey, what's what we hear? Paul, I'm panicking. Are you at the disco with Pierce the Veil, or are we somewhere else?
Well, it's nice to see a pumped up Dom, but yeah. So about 10 years ago, this San Diego outfit ruled the roost with their hyperactive post-hardcore albums, and continued on the rise with their 2016 album Misadventures, which promoted them to arena-level success. Then it took a break in 2018, and then COVID hit and stalled the music community. Now they're back. The Jaws of Life flips from post-hardcore infused alternate rock to slower-paced alternate rock ballads, all without skipping a beat. This is something that has to be admired, as there are so many bands that are unable to successfully manage to do this effectively. I found similarities with 21 Pilots, and that may be as the producer has worked with both of them. Nevertheless, this is a mature and moving effort from Pierce the Veil. They may have taken a 5-year hiatus, but this album is a grower and is up there for my album of the year.
Nice.
Oh my god.
You're muted, Nigel. You're ruining this podcast.
I'm muted. I'm in shock. Album of the year. Really? Who knows? Maybe I would agree with you. So, Dave, something to smile about, perhaps? Is this more up your street?
It's not something that I would have particularly listened to. It is definitely something sort of different. But I thought it started off really, really well. The first few times I listened to it, really, really enjoyed it. The more I've listened to it, though, it is just okay. I mean, there are some great tracks on there. But as an old album, it is just okay. I mean, it's one of those, you can't go wrong listening to it. You're going to be entertained, I think. But if you're looking for an album of the year, this definitely isn't it. But it's solid nonetheless.
Well, in your opinion, Dave, it's not an album of the year.
Wow.
But as a collective, as you know, sometimes we
you get it wrong.
We get it. Okay. Solid album. Really good. I mean, again, one of those albums that I enjoyed without loving it. Because sometimes I go, oh, I got to add that track to my playlist or that track to my playlist. I don't think I added many, if any, of the album, but I still enjoyed it. You know me, I do like a lot of variety in my album. I like it hard hitting, I like it being punched in the face, I like it slowed down, and this had plenty of that, plenty of variety on it. I think there was one track, Paul, where you may have made the analogy of 21 Pilots. One track. I did listen to it. I went, really? So I had another listen to it, but I also felt it more leaning towards Avril Lavigne-ish with the vocals on times. And however, the good news is that there was no similarity whatsoever to Panic at the Disco, none whatsoever. And I don't know what Dom's been taking, but there was none whatsoever. And I did not see. I would say something like Kalo would be Mexico. So I didn't pick up on the Mexico thing either. But interesting that you did. But then you did mention Panic at the Disco, so we can't really take you seriously on the Mexico front, quite frankly. But there we are. So anyway, let's find out. I think I might know who. Well, do I? Let's find out. Just for those, we're now going to rate the albums out of 5, and this is purely how much we personally enjoyed the albums, but what's the result? Well, to get into our Hall of Fame, which is only 16 Hall of Fames, you need to score 20 or above, and then 19.5 gets your top 20, 19 gets your top 30, and so forth. But you could also get into our albums for 2023 to get shortlisted for our albums of the year. So let's, without further ado, will any of these two bands, Delain and Pierce the Veil, get to these holiday shows? Let's find out, shall we? So Dave, let's start with you then. Delain.
2.5.
It's not bad for you for symphonic metal, is it? Eh? Cool. That could be album of the year, mate. Better risk it there. And Pierce the Veil.
3.5.
3.5. Solid. 1-0 to Pierce the Veil. Trish, Delain.
3 out of 5.
Solid. And Pierce the Veil.
4.5.
4.5. She doesn't want to give her fives away unless it really is magically special these days, aren't you? But pretty solid. Dom, well, I fancy what's coming here. Delain.
Can I give it a 0?
You can.
It's a 0.
You can give it a 0. You
Please,
can give it a 0.
Destroy it.
You will find many bands littered with 0, particularly Arctic Monkeys' late album, which if it wasn't of me would have probably scored a 0 right across the board. Anyway, and Pierce the Veil.
Pierce the Veil's pretty solid. I'll give it 4.
Ooh, okay. Looking good. Paul, Pierce, Delain, Paul.
3.
3.
And I'm going to be exactly the same as Trish, 4.5 for Pierce the Veil.
That's a mighty score from Paul. That is, I could be, well, I also give Delain a 3. I thought it was pretty solid. And I give Pierce the Veil a very solid 4. This is exciting. Let's find out. We're Delain. So 3, 6, 9, 11.5. Thanks to Dom. Didn't get the average. Dom. I'm looking forward, Paul, to taking Dom to a Delain concert. And I'm pointing him out. Wait, he's you. He's got 0. Yeah. Pierce the Veil, 4.5. Well, 9, 13, 16.5. 20.5 Hall of Fame! A Hall of Fame album! Pretty solid, no 5s, but a really solid all-round score. 20.5. You're looking at, congratulations, Pierce the Veil. You have achieved our Hall of Fame without a 5. That's quite rare. I'd be interested to see whether or not that goes in. Obviously, top 10 for 2023, and we'll go forward to our Album of the Year review show at the end of it, at the end of the year. So we will get to listen to them again for sure. Congratulations, 4, 4.5, 4.5, 3.5, 4. That is pretty solid scoring. 20.5. Welcome to the Hall of Fame. Welcome to our top 23 albums of the year so far. Wow! And smashed Delain to pieces in our Battle of the Bands there. Though, my problem here is, well, I only get to listen to a couple of tracks and they were both female lead singers, and that's why I pitched them together. But I think they actually were slightly different genres from that perspective. But, pretty solid. So, congratulations again. Keep tuning in, keep listening, keep rocking on, and go to our YouTube channel. Please like and subscribe our show, and please keep sharing us. Thank you very much to my crew, Paul, Dave, Trish, and Dom. And keep on rocking, and we'll see you soon. Thanks very much. Bye.